And then we are heading just next door to the Huka Prawn Park.
Previously on day 298, part 1 of New Zealand's biggest gap year, we took a jet boat to go super close to the furious Huka Falls. Those are the most raging waterfalls in New Zealand, and by going there by jet boat we got a unique look at them. Then we had a thrill ride back to the base, and we are now heading to the next activity of our day, which is the Huka Prawn Park. Located right next door to the jet boat, it was just too tempting to pass.
I think it's prawn o'clock.
Can I have a hug? Oh. That was awkward. Moving on, we are joining one of the guided tours that they do here at the Huka Prawn Park, which goes on every hour. Hot. Cold. Hot. We learn about how the Huka Prawn Park takes geothermal water from the geothermal park next door, so it's the perfect temperature to keep these prawns in a nice warm environment. The perfect place to check out what these little prawns look like up close is in the aquarium. And actually, to be honest, this is the first time I'm seeing a prawn actually alive and walking. Usually I just see them as food on my plate. And it turns out that prawns are pretty fascinating creatures. We're learning loads about their life cycle from our guide Rob, and to look at, they are so fascinating. They even have these blue, long arms with pincers on the end and big googly eyes. They're really fun to look at.
After that, we move on to the nursery. This is where the prawns are basically being raised. They start at really little water being, and then they become those really big stuff that you see on your plate. And Rob is telling us all about the prawns' life cycle, as well as the effort that they're making here to make sure that they stay healthy throughout the whole process. But despite the fact that Rob is a wealth of knowledge about those prawns, we spend most of our time playing with those underwater telescopes. It's really cool to be able to see what happened underneath the water. Those tools are really awesome. We then move on to different tanks, and that helps us see all those prawns into different stages of their lives. We see them as adolescents, we see them as adults, and Rob along the way tells us a lot of absolutely fascinating facts about those prawns.
The best bit about this room, in my opinion, is the fact that we actually get to hand feed the prawns. So Rob is giving everyone a little bit of food to put into the palm of their hand, and then we need to lower it really slowly into the water, about elbow deep, and wait for the prawns to come. At first I don't get much luck, but soon enough the prawns start to come, and it's actually really hilarious watching these little guys taking the food with their arms and sort of scurrying away afterwards. But now that we've fed the prawns, it's time for the prawns to feed us. So the next thing we're learning how to do is to go and fish for prawns ourselves.
Like I said, throw it in. Now you want the tip of your rod just above the water.
One of the main staples of fishing from prawns is extreme patience, and that really worries me because I already know that normal fishing is about patience and I have none of it. But Rob is giving us a few extra tips before sending us out in the wild, not really, in some of the outdoor basin where we're gonna be fishing for prawns ourselves. But along the way to our fishing spot, there's plenty to distract us, like trout feeding station, geothermal hot food bath, a short bushwalk, and this kind of contraption.
If you want to go straight into the fishing, we'll be able to grab all your gear here. You guys will be able to get straight into it.
So we've got our fishing rods, we've got our bait, now it's time for us to find the perfect prawn fishing spot. And there's actually quite a lot of spots to choose from. There's loads of different jetties with umbrellas to stay under the shade. There's even fishing boats, but for Robin and I, we sit ourselves under a nice little cabbage tree on a rock and wait for the prawns to come. Any moment now, any moment, there's gonna be a prawn on the end of our rod. Just you wait and see.
No, seriously, no joke. It's actually coming. We're gonna get a prawn. Anytime. I'm not joking. There are prawns in this little lake. Something's gonna bite. Something has to bite, right?
No, nothing did bite for the entire afternoon. We are terrible prawn fishers.
Laura and I are not getting much, eh? Are you getting anything?
We're going home with an empty bucket and empty stomachs.
Well, that's pretty sad.
No prawns for us.
We are losers. We are prawn losers.
When we enter, we are greeted by Sean the prawn, who gives me a hug, and then I realize that I too look like I'm dressed like a prawn today, so I feel like I will feel right at home here at the Huka Prawn Park.